I've built over 100 keyboards, and you know what I always thought was necessary in every build? Foam. But it turns out, you don't need foam in your keyboard. Kind of. I'll explain in a second. Howdy hey, I'm Hipyo, and this video is a bit of a story. We're gonna be learning a little bit. Now I know what you're thinking. Hipyo, you're betraying us. You're leaving foam. Foam gang, no. If it all burns down, can we burn down together? I'm gonna be building an incredibly clacky keyboard. Yeah, no talk. But there's a twist. I'm building it without foam. This is the Enter 67. It's a keyboard from drop.com, and guess what? It's only $150. But we'll talk about that more later, after I lint roll my cat, Nola. She needs it. Now, I will be doing my standard Hipyo antics and doing weird mods, but ultimately what I'm gonna try to do is maybe realize foam isn't always the way. And also, I'm using tactile switches in this build. Is this like a new Hipyo age of revival? Speaking of revival, revive the subscribe button like I'm reviving Nola here with this massage gun. If you hit subscribe, I'll give you an extra howdy hey. I'll wait. Howdy hey. Now, oh, what's this box on the floor? Looks like I might have dropped it. This part of the story begins with a keyboard that was sent to me by Drop, and I'm very, very curious about. This is the Keziwa Enter 67. Now, don't get this confused with the Drop Enter. It's actually totally different, but we'll get into that later. It's just a board being sold on Drop. It isn't actually made by Drop. As far as I'm aware, I could be wrong. Now, this video is not sponsored, but Drop has been a sponsor in the past, so keep that in mind. Now, you're probably thinking, Hipyo, this is just another metal rectangle. What's going on? What's special about this one? Well, a few things. Number one, the price. Number two, oh my God, what was that? Number two, the quality. And number three, the sound. I'll get into all the foamy stuff later. Don't worry, we're still doing that. But let's start with the board. So unfortunately, this keyboard is a group buy, which makes me go, boo, you suck. But it starts at $149 US. And if you're checking your little fact sheet there, that means it's pretty affordable for a custom keyboard. Now, even though it's a group buy, I'm actually interested in talking about this because it fulfills in July. Meaning, yeah, if you buy this keyboard, you'll have to wait through all of May and all of June, but actually 2 months isn't that bad for a group buy. That's actually really good. These shorter group buys are really finally starting to make me excited for group buys again. Now, this board is aluminum or aluminium for you British viewers. And I've got the pink version here in front of me, but it comes in a lot of different colors. And the build quality is shockingly good for how affordable it is. Like, this board is cheaper than the Keychron Q2. Keep that in mind. And oh my, look at that backweight. That is a premium style backweight that I would typically see on like a $300 plus keyboard. It's stainless steel, and boy, it's pretty. Now, just like my therapist always says, it's time to open up. The keyboard. Now, earlier I said that keyboards don't need foam, but you're probably wondering, why does this keyboard come with foam then? Why does it come with foam? Well, keyboard sound is entirely subjective. Now, I prefer a deep, thockier sound, but some people might prefer a clackier sound. Some people might prefer whatever monstrosity this is. Anyways, so they include foam so that you can customize the sound to your preference. It also adjusts the feel as well. Now, despite what some people might tell you, there isn't really one true best way to mod your keyboard. For example, PE foam can be really good if you like a certain sound profile, but it can also be a little bit boring if you like a different sound profile. But this keyboard gives you a lot of different options. Now, for some boards, I really prefer the foamed sound. Like the Zoom 75, I feel like sounds super marbly and deep when I put all of the foam in it. And it included a lot of foam. Like, listen to this. I think this sounds absolutely incredible, but that's subjective. But if you think that sounds bad, you do need to get your ears checked, actually. That's actually a real fact. If you think that sounds bad, please get your ears checked. But often, if you leave foam out in some cheaper keyboards, the keyboard will end up sounding incredibly pingy. I'm looking at you, Keychron. But if a board is made out of more premium materials and the design is good, then you can actually end up with a very clacky sounding keyboard and a very flexible gasket performance if you leave out the foam. But I'm honestly wondering if that's going to be the case here. I mean, the board is $150. It can't actually sound good without foam, right? Well, one good sign is that it uses gasket socks, which are my favorite style of gasket. But to put this board to the test, I'll be building it with foam and without foam. Yes, we will be building it both ways. Honestly, if you're following along at home with any keyboard that you've purchased, I do recommend that you try it both ways. That way you can see what you actually like. You never know, you might think that you really like a non-foamed sound, did you add foam and you actually really like the foam sound, or vice versa. Especially if you're building a keyboard with a lot of dead space like this one. Sometimes the foam is just necessary. Now before we get too crazy, let's start the actual build. For stabilizers, I just used some of the Wuche stabilizers that I really like, and Nola helped me out a whole lot. It's become her regular routine to just sit and watch me loop stabilizers, as she really likes to push the stabilizers around the desk, and she really feels like she's so useful, because she's cute. Please go leave a comment and say, thank you Nola for helping out Hipyo, you are the best, and subscribe. That was 2 different requests there. I don't think I mentioned this yet, but the board is hot swap, meaning that you can swap the switches out without soldering, and it also has RGB LEDs on the bottom. Do you see those, guys? Do you see them? RGB. Sorry, I'm a gamer at heart. Now, the one asterisk to this build is I will be using this in-between plate and PCB foam for the whole entire build. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're gonna riot. You're gonna say, Hipyo, that's foam. How dare you? How could you? I hate you. Well, this keyboard doesn't have standoffs for in between the plate and PCB. I don't know if that's just because it's a prototype or whatever. And assembling a keyboard without those standoffs is literally the biggest headache in the whole entire world. So I'm gonna be leaving that foam in. It's not doing too much, I promise. It's doing a little bit, but not too much. Now this keyboard comes with 2 pieces of foam for the case, so I put both of those in, I plug the keyboard in, I put my head in front of the camera, and I think that's basically the assembly. I would rate this board as incredibly beginner friendly, as there was nothing too hard about building it. And with a simple guide, it would actually be incredibly straightforward, and I forgot to charge my WoW stick. Now you're probably thinking, Hipyo, you're building a clacky keyboard, so how are you gonna actually make it clacky? Well, I've got the tricks right up my sleeve. I'm rolling up my sleeves right now, but you can't see that. I'm gonna be trying a bunch of different switches. Now, I have literally 6 of these containers full of switches in my closet, and also a whole entire IKEA cube full of switches, so I've got a lot. But I wanted to find a nice clacky tactile switch that sounded good from the factory. So I decided to go with these Wuche WS Blacks, which are a nice tactile switch. I'll have them and everything else linked down below for you. Now, in my opinion, tactile switches tend to just sound a lot clackier. I'm not sure of the science here, so don't quote me on this. It's just every time I build a keyboard using tactile switches, it sounds a little bit clackier versus thockier. That means higher pitched versus deeper pitched. So keep that in mind when you're curating your sound profile for your board. The keyboard is the sum of all of its parts. Now, I think a board like this with a stainless steel weight just sounds better if you play into the clackier side of it. Like if you try and force it to sound deep, it's just not going to sound as good as a keyboard that's meant to sound really deep. Now for the keycaps, I have some very interesting budget keycaps, and I know this looks super janky, but hear me out. This is a $27 set of keycaps that I got from Amazon. Now I could have used some expensive $100 set of keycaps, but I felt like that really wouldn't have fit the vibe of building a more budget keyboard like this. And these are double shot ABS keycaps, so they're no joke. They're actually pretty decent. Now they've got a few quirks like the spacebar, but we'll check that out later. But overall, the value you're getting here is pretty incredible. So if you're budget gang, then I guess check these out down below. I'd say the biggest caveat is that the profile of these is really weird. They're MSA profile, so they're like flatter but also taller. Now, this is something that you could get used to with maybe like a week or 2 of typing on the board. But if you're used to a more gamery style keycap, then that's gonna suck. Now with the foam in, this board has a tiny bit of flex to it, but when you're typing, you really don't feel any of it. But what you do feel is the epic power of the RGB gamer time, which I'm feeling it right now. I'm feeling it so good right now. Gamer time. Now that was the board with foam. So it sounds decent, right? Like it sounds okay, but it's not knocking my socks off, and it doesn't really sound that incredible. But what if I told you it sounds better without foam? Okay, except the spacebar. I modded the spacebar with kill mat. Great idea, by the way. So next, what I'm gonna do is take this whole bad boy apart, strip out the foam, and see if we can't get a better gasket performance and also a better sound and feel. Also see, I'm charging my WoW stick. This is character development. I am developing so well. Thankfully, the disassembly of this board is really, really easy, so I don't need to show you that again. Then I just remove the foam, put it back together, and bada bing, bada boom, it's like a whole different keyboard. Now you're probably thinking, Hipyo, but the keyboard doesn't look any different. But look at this gasket performance after swapping it out. Now, I'm gonna be honest here. It was definitely too much gasket performance. Like, I'm pushing down here dramatically to show you, but even light typing, you can literally feel the vibrations in your opposite hand while typing on this board. But let me give you a before and after so you can hear what it sounds like with and without foam. So here's before. Now, normally with foam, a keyboard sounds a lot fuller and deeper. But in this case, the keyboard sounds a lot fuller and lighter. This isn't the most revolutionary thing ever, but I am incredibly shocked that a budget keyboard like this can sound good without mods. Like, the less mods made it sound better. That's kind of crazy. I'd love to know what you guys think down below, so go ahead and leave a comment. Leave that engagement for me. And let me know what kinds of boards and mods you'd like to see in the future. I'll leave you with a slightly longer sound test.